All right, welcome into How About Wow Week 7. Cowboys getting CeeDee Lamb back, but another man is down. The breaking news Friday, right before we went live on the fan, Trayvon Diggs, concussion off the field. He's out. Lots of talking points there. Two big stories for America's team as they get set for the Commanders at 3:25 on Sunday afternoon. Let's do this, Jimmy.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about this, Cowboys?
All right, welcome in. I'm Gavin Dawson from 105 through the Fans G-Bag Nation. With me, as always, New Bear Lesniewski. How the heck are you, buddy?
Well, it's Stoops' last stand. You know, college football Saturday is hard when your alma mater gets trashed on Friday night, one master's degree, and then the undergraduate heartbeat doesn't seem to have much left. So I am excited to talk Sunday, traditional pro day, because college is just leaving me an empty soul.
Yes, and of course, if you don't know, New Bear, the all-academic SEC lineman at Kentucky back in the day, and it's tough. It's tough out there in college football if you aren't one of the big boys. More difficult than ever, my man. Okay, like the video if you think Trayvon Diggs should have played his last down for the Cowboys already. What do you think? Final game against the Panthers in 2025, and I don't know what happens. I just know the trust between the team and him is at an all-time low. I don't think it could get any lower. Than where we are right now. Stephen Jones was asked by the collective media at the Star Friday afternoon, and he just gave a no comment. Then he joined us on the show live at 3 o'clock, and I circled around like for seconds and thirds trying to get any sort of statement, and he was in a good mood. But, you were there in training camp when they talked about Trayvon Diggs, and it was clear then the organization did not have a lot of love for their former all-pro corner or a lot of trust. Didn't think he did everything that he could to rehab properly going into 2024, and then rehabbed on his own. They docked him $500,000, which lets you know that it's personal. So I think for me, Newberry, just comes down to, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. When you paid him $20 million a year, it was like, okay, not a perfect corner, but he gets takeaways. Now we're in the midst of a season where he doesn't appear to be buying in, and he hasn't put his hand on a football in a defensive snap all year long yet.
No picks, no passes defensed. You know, the thing that is indefensible about this is it seems like he's done everything he can at every step to kind of raise a middle finger to the franchise that guaranteed him all this money. And it's like, it's one thing to do a Netflix documentary as a player when your owner is doing the same damn thing. Like, who's really running things, right? And especially in this world that we live in where there's so many more ways to get paid, and you only have a window to do that in. And as a 3.3 average year, life expectancy for a pro player, you got to take advantage of that, especially when you've already had a major catastrophic injury. Guess what? You didn't do a good job coming back from that. And then this chondral graft stuff, the modern microfracture, is like a brand new thing where they're regrowing a piece of you in a petri dish. And you just say, nah, I'm good. I'm going to do it on my own, after you didn't do it well the last time. And then you release a documentary about it. And then the entire time that your best friend, Micah Parsons, is going through his drama, you're out there playing grab ass with him. So I don't know. My big thing is all that stuff can get wrapped into a neat little bow if he stopped making business decisions when it was go time. And
his tackling.
Oh my goodness. And, when you talk about playing zone and you talk about playing man and his capability, different than ability, because if you're as talented of an athlete as he is and he wanted to, he'd be able to figure it out. But the fact that he's in there basically being the ringleader of folks as a veteran who's been paid saying, I don't want to play this way, means he's got to go.
Yeah, especially with Shoddy trying to, install his culture and get buy-in at every turn. There has been a marked difference from the offense to the defensive side of the ball as far as that buy-in goes. And I don't know if that's Matt Eberflus, but I know, when you get into these kind of situations where players and coaches aren't seeing eye to eye, if it's a player that's done everything right and the coach has been there a while and you're struggling, that's an opportunity where you look at the coach. But when it's a new coach and you're trying to kind of turn the page and this player is, dragging his feet enough that they actually had to bench him a couple of weeks back. And then after this disaster against the Panthers, he had a lot to say about the defense, even saying they did not have an identity. So, even if it's just the fact that, hey, maybe this isn't a good fit and he has a legitimate claim for, holy crap, I'm a man corner and you've switched to zone in year 3 of my new contract, you're setting me up to fail. Even if it's like you can see the player side of this equation, you still need to move on just for the X's and O's of it. Then you add all the attitudinal stuff, which they've had to address. I just don't know what the win is, and then that's the other reason, like, what are you getting for putting up with this? Like, it's clear the Chiefs and Dolphins are willing to put up with Tyreek Hill and whatever sort of mess he wants to bring into the locker room, into the post game, off the field, whatever it is, as long as you're the Tyreek Hill who can score 10 touchdowns and do 1,500 yards. Now that he's at this point in his career, I don't know how many takers there's going to be for 800-yard a year Tyreek Hill coming off an injury.
Well, that's the thing, is production genius means you will put up with just about anything. It's Gregory House MD, right? Like, you can be an asshole if you're a genius. And the problem with stuff with Diggs is there are 3, 4, 5 different ways to pick up the pieces, and not one of them builds a puzzle back into a place where he is who he thinks he is. So I don't know how else to cut this, except for the fact that when it was time to move on from Micah Parsons, I had been asking all summer, where is D4K in all this? Where has Dak Prescott, the captain of this team, QB1, MV Prescott, now coming to the podium and saying what? Some guy, or we have most of the guys. We have the guys in this for the most part. The same way that he did not go to bat for Micah Parsons, he is now not going to bat for Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, like the post-game moment between Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. Like, Micah's trying to show the love, and Dak's kind of keeping it arm's length, like, oh, okay, cool, man. I love you, brother. We'll see you next time. And, I guess it's easy to interpret that just on the surface as, hey, there's 2 former teammates chopping it up at the end of the game. But you can tell there's a difference for Dak Prescott with guys that he really thinks are in the fold and are down with the plan like he is, and guys that are a little bit on the outside. And, I think you've seen Dak do absolute great leadership work with the offensive side of the ball, but, the defense is a completely different thing. And some people, no matter what industry you're in, I'm sure there's plenty of people in your line of work, there's plenty of people in my line of work, that they're just always making the excuse that the bosses or the coaches are idiots and all this is laughable. And maybe from a cynical Cowboys fan perspective, you could give, Trayvon Diggs a little bit of understanding for that. Like, yeah, this is a different type of organization and they're not always, making the smartest decisions. This is their 3rd defensive coordinator in as many seasons. You got a heavy turnover, and I'm sure that's got to be frustrating from a player. But I mean, you can see him cover. You can see him cover right now, and his track record isn't really a team first kind of guy. So let me turn the page and use that to segue into asking you, to what extent do you think the difference in coverage is a legitimate explanation for the struggles of Diggs and Bland? I mean, you have 2 man corners who have both had seasons where they led the league in interceptions, and neither one of them's touched the ball yet, Newbear. I mean, just to look at it and play devil's advocate from that side of the story, like, how much is this the coach and the organization taking players, putting them in a position to not succeed, and how much is this those players getting hurt and, not really ever being the great corner that you should pay?
I think this is the part of the conversation that makes it so hard to trust anything PFF says, because unless you're in the locker room, you don't know what the actual call is. And if I'm going to toe the line here at all, then what I'm going to think about is man match. And what I'm going to do if I'm the coach and I'm the defensive coordinator and Shoppy trusted him and going through the machinations week to week is inside of that zone. No matter what the call is, eventually it basically becomes man. And anybody in the comments who wants to talk about, drops and getting to your spot versus running with a dude, like I'm not disputing that. But all the match inside of the way that Eberflus wants to do things means that there is a ton of latitude for a guy like Diggs to go chase, to go get paid, to go make plays. Like the fact that we're just going to say, I can't do this at all, or I almost refuse to plug in, is what makes it so damning against Diggs. Because what you're saying is true. Like if you ask a defensive team to all of a sudden become a man-to-man team in a sport like basketball, then it's easier to talk about how they get exposed because like you go out and or you just go out and hoop at 24-hour LA Fitness, whatever the case may be, and you're like, oh yeah, man, like I can't run with that dude. We're gonna get beat. Inside of like the intricacies of what Eberflus wants to do is to show things and then give you the ability to go run and chase. And there are only so many patterns. There's only so many ways that the offense can attack you. So if you're in there watching film and you're playing this team and you're saying in this formation to this side of the field at this down and distance, this is what they like to do. And then you go out there and you just turn dudes loose because you can't figure out how to backpedal or you can't figure out how to, I'm going to say, split the difference between who they're asking you to be and who you want to be in your heart when you're getting paid what they're getting paid. And when they put you in man, you slip and fall and burnt toast. And when they actually do take the risk of like, oh, okay, this week we will run some of that shit. We'll appease this dude. He gets beat anyway. Like, at what point do you have to look in the mirror and say, I need to watch more film? I need to evolve as a player. Because when you're tall and long, and I know I'm going long on this question.
You're killing it.
But I think about Rod Woodson. I think about Charles Woodson. I think about Jalen Ramsey. And I think about Trayvon Diggs because those guys at various stages and in different ways had major catastrophic injuries or aged out of being the guy who follows wide receiver one no matter who trots out there. And if you're Trayvon Diggs and you've had these two terrible, no good, very bad turf monster, football gods, 23andMe injuries, and you want to play for 10 more years, there's a future where you have to adapt, whether that's outside and being a zone corner or potentially moving to safety because of your size and those traits that we're talking about. And what he's telling us is I would rather play for 5 more minutes the way I want to play and just put enough tape out there that gets me run out of the league.
Man, that's awesome content there from New Bear Lesniewski. On the offensive side of the ball, Dak has the answers to the test because he's obsessed with preparation, and he makes sure he's on the same page by taking all of his offensive guys every offseason on a trip where they connect and study stuff and make sure they're on the same page even more. And, Trayvon Diggs can't even get on the same page with one teammate on their side of the field pre-snap so they understand, what the coverage is and what the responsibilities are going to be. So I think that is well received. And, just to add to what you said about the man, they probably played around 400 snaps total as a defense so far, and maybe 10% of those have been in man. The efficiency is worse. Like if you want to make a statement to your defensive coaching staff and the head coach in the front office, like, hey, maybe we should mandate this and it's better in the 10% of time you're actually playing man, then you have a case to be made, but it just has not been the case. And, the unfortunate reality for Diggs right now is when they got to take him off the field this week, you're putting in Kaiir Elam, who's not very good at all, but he's not much worse than Diggs. Like Diggs is somewhere around average right now. I think, and that's unfortunate. There's a ton of corners around the league that give up plays on a regular basis. That's what the NFL is. And you paid him to be one of those guys that might not be totally shut down, but is going to go take the ball away somewhere between 4 and 8 times a year. That's kind of what you paid for. And you're not getting either of those things right now, and you're still not getting tackling. And, it's unfortunate that the film aspect is there, because he'd be an awesome free safety. I think that was a really good point. Because you can be totally out of phase, right? As safety, you're just watching the quarterback and reacting. That's what he wants to do as a corner. It's really weird, because he wants to play man so much, but he wants to play off and wait to read the quarterback. So it seems he should be better at zone. He seems to be a good candidate for free safety. But right now, I think my patience is up with him, and I think the organization's is as well. Okay. Just to turn the page here and stay on this topic, but look at our next branch on the topic tree here on How About Wow. What could you get for Trayvon Diggs in the trade market?
Contract, health issues, attitudinal, great word by you earlier. I mean, at this point, I think most teams are just going to wait for them to cut him. I think at this point, you have to have a very specific scheme and a very specific need to go out there and say, yeah, I'm willing to take this thing on. The money, the attitude, everything that comes with it, right? It's not a guy who's languishing on a team. This isn't Jalen Waddle down in Miami, right? Who's just like waiting for someone to come in and give up and give up what they need to get him and say, hey, we want you because you're the last piece of a Super Bowl team. I don't know, when you look across the league, like Trey Hendrickson belongs in San Francisco. That's the big rumor, based on Bosa going down and the Bengals not wanting to pay him the long-term money that he wants. That need-based conversation, and also return on investment. And
we're getting to a point where I think there's some contenders with big enough holes at corner. They might be desperate enough to give up something. I just don't know what that is.
What I'm saying to you, though, is based on the fact that he is showing on tape that he's worse at what he wants to do than what they're asking him to do, who trusts him enough at that dollar amount with that knee to say, yeah, we'll give up something for you. Come here and run with us. Like, where is that match? Like, it's hard to look out there. And I wasn't trying to go down a rabbit hole. I just, like, those were the first. Think of Max Crosby's the one who's been rumored to come to Dallas. He fills a hole. And engagement farm on through, what you want to do with those picks. It's a two-way street is all I'm saying. Like, I don't know who's driving down the road looking at all the things that come with Diggs saying, I'm willing to sign up for this.
Yeah, I think maybe a 5 or a 6, and if I'm the Cowboys, I'm really willing to take a late round swap just to save the money on the salary for the rest of the season. And maybe now's not the time. Maybe you try to beat Washington, and you come back next week and you try to beat Denver, and now you're sitting at 4-3-1 going into Arizona before the bye, and you're like, hold on now, we're buyers. And the vibes are good again. And maybe this is a moment that Diggs and Eberflus can use to get on the same page. But, I think there's a very slim chance of that happening. I think that the chances are much greater that they lose these next 2 games and you're going into one final game with Arizona. So I would be in the mode of what kind of draft picks can we get and what additional salary cap space can we sort of rat hole for the future?
Well, I mean, the big thing is, this offense is literally the best in the league, and this defense is literally the worst. And you're 2-3-1 because of that. Micah Parsons is no longer here. No one nationally really cares about the rest of the defensive roster as it stands right now. So Diggs is in some ways the last man standing in terms of all the blame, all the memes, everything that you see. It's 7 out in front of it. It's number 32 in the league, and it's Trayvon Diggs' responsibility. So when you talk about the toxicity and when you talk about the mental health and the mental toughness and the awareness and the other stuff that goes into this, that way beyond football, he's bearing the brunt of that. And if you're looking at this like from a human aspect, trying to empathize, sympathize, and say, I understand why he is making the business decisions, or I understand why he would want out. How simple of a solve is it to just go ball your ass off, put your face in the fan. Like, this team has a Super Bowl offense. If they have a slightly above replacement player level defense, you get a ring, bro.
Yeah, it really is doable, and it's amazing because not only do you have the team opportunity out there, but Diggs is likely playing for his next contract. Maybe he's made so much money, and that's why he was willing to punt on a $500,000 workout bonus for the Cowboys. Maybe he's just looking at it like, I don't need any more money. I'm fine. I just want to be done playing football. I've made it. But if I was him right now, I'd be thinking, man, I'm about to be a free agent. Nobody's going to want me. Okay, up next year on How About Wow. You know, we're going to have to pick up that conversation early next week. I won't be surprised if by the next time we do a show after week 7, Diggs has already been traded, but we will be tracking this story closely. We, when we were planning this show, we thought it was going to be more CeeDee Lamb related. We have plenty of time to talk about all the branches on the CeeDee Lamb topic tree. And this is a major storyline because if, the offense isn't significantly more unstoppable, it does lead to a conversation about what is the best way to use that $35 or $40 million that it would take to keep George Pickens. So my question for you, and the chat, leave us a thought down below. What would you need to see from this offense the rest of the way to justify paying 2 wide receivers, considering how good it's been the last 3 weeks with just one?
It's fascinating stuff, right? Because you start all the things we talked about, and anyone who thought we were advocating for trading Pickens, that's only if they lose the next couple of weeks and you're going to make a move before the deadline to try to think about how you keep moving forward, just to explore it as an option. I said back in the summer, George Pickens was about to have a Randy Moss season, and people thought I was insane. Like, the talent that dude has is as good, if not better than anyone. It was always just a question of the word that you always use, mercurial, and another quarterback and another system being able to feed him and keep him happy and keep him, because he stays healthy. Like, that's the difference between him and CeeDee is CeeDee keeps getting caught in the turf monster. CeeDee keeps having these things pop up where, you shut him down because it's not a Super Bowl season. Last year, you run the play where he gets, if they got to figure out how to get rid of that damn hip drop thing. Like, they need to, like, I want to walk around with like a weighted, or like a what the hell do you call the things at the pool that you take, that you float, the floaties, that the
Pool noodles?
I want to take a pool noodle with spikes around every NFL train, and if you hip drop someone, I would be able to like ear hole you with a pool noodle with spikes.
Oh,
like that whole thing, it had nothing to do with the fly sweep. It had nothing to do with him playing running back or any of the other. Go look back in time and watch Jerry Rice in the backfield. Go look back in time at all the greatest offenses and all the ways they've tried to get the ball in other people's hands. And I just can't with the people who, like, they should be suspended. If that's what we would have to do, is if you hip drop tackle someone, you should get suspended. And if they get hurt, you should be suspended for the amount of games that they miss. That's it. So CeeDee Lamb coming back. Let's remember that there's going to be a ramp up phase, in as much as George Pickens just played Z. George Pickens just played in the slot. George Pickens isn't just an X, and that was the big X factor in what he meant to this team coming over from the Pittsburgh Steelers, because we couldn't even get Mike Tomlin to let him run more than a couple of routes, and I was dying to see what happened when Schottenheimer moved him all across the field. CeeDee being out allowed that to happen, and now, as interesting as it's going to be to see where CeeDee plays, what his usage is, not just from a target perspective, but from a assignment, from a personnel grouping, and from a where he lines up perspective. What's the same thing with George Pickens? Because George Pickens is known for a few weeks now that he wasn't just wide receiver one. He was the guy on the best offense in the league, and he was must-see TV, who was playing a role in winning. And even when they didn't get the job done, ultimately everyone's talking about how great he is. People in Pittsburgh are screaming about how they gave up a 3, or they got a 3 for a guy who's about to go Randy Moss on the league.
Probably should have kept him.
He is one, because it wouldn't have happened here. That's the thing. Like,
it would have been pretty good, though.
Yeah, with opposite DK. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's the thing, right? Is in Pittsburgh, without him, they have the same problem that they had with him. And now you sign DK and you pay him, and you watch what the Cincinnati Bengals allowed Joe Flacco's corpse to do with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
It's special. It really is, man. But you made me think a few minutes back there that maybe trading Lamb would be the move.
So that's where
healthy.
I was almost afraid to say it, so I was kind of talking around it.
Pickens would look good in the 88, wouldn't he?
No, he stays in the 3. He stays in the 3 for each one of his personalities, and you just kind of unpack the thing, and you go, hang on now. If CeeDee comes back and he does what he does, and he gets his 10 targets and his 7 catches, and he does what he does, and then they go on a little bit of a run, but they ultimately don't get it done. Everyone in the world, every team in this league wants CeeDee Lamb. Half the teams in the league, maybe 2/3 of the teams still they're going to freak out about George Pickens because of everything that comes with it. What I'm saying is, if you're Jerry Jones and you see what George Pickens did when he was the man, when CeeDee was out, you start looking at this and you go, man, I got 2 1s and Kenny Clark for Micah Parsons. If you move CeeDee Lamb and people are willing to give up 1s, now you're talking about being able to do whatever the hell you want to, and you save the 45 because you didn't pay Micah, and now you save 40. Now you're still going to pay Pickens, but you're not having to pay CeeDee anymore. And what people are forgetting in this is when you pay Pickens, you're going to have to raise the floor of 88. So you're not giving Pickens 40 without giving Lamb a little bit more too.
Man, I think those are all good points. It's a fun thought exercise. I don't think they would ever trade CeeDee Lamb. Like trading CeeDee Lamb and keeping George Pickens would be, I think, the way you just rolled it out, maybe the smartest pure football winning decision that you could make. And if they made it and did get like just a 1 and a 2 for CeeDee Lamb, I think I would be celebrating. Pickens is just so much more built solid. He's so much more physical, and his injury history, confirms that. I think the worst thing that happened to the idea of keeping Lamb and Pickens together long term, though, is the injury to Lamb that made everybody see the truth about George Pickens, that he is maybe good enough to reset the market. You might be talking about Jamar Chase level money. I mean, I guarantee Mulligetta's asking for 42 right now. He's like, what are you talking about? He's one of the best wide receivers in the game. And
if they don't pay him, someone else will. That's the thing.
Yeah, once he hits free agency, and you'll get maybe a 3rd or a 4th round comp pick back for him, but obviously that would pale in comparison. So I would just ask, fans to consider if Pickens is going to make so much money that you can't afford to keep both of them, which would be the best out of the 2 to keep? And I don't think there's a clear answer, and it's fascinating because 3-4 weeks ago there was no possible way we'd be entertaining those kinds of ideas, but I think it is crucial that they don't bring both back. Let me say that for my strong take of the subject. How are you going to possibly rebuild a defense? Defense wins championships. It is the absolute worst defense in the NFL. Dak's going to be 33 years old. I don't know how long he's going to play. I don't think he's going to pull an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady go into his 40s because his injuries have been so substantial. That said, he's been the best pocket quarterback in the NFL this year, so maybe he does, but I can't bank on that. As an organization, I owe it to myself after 30 years of failing to even get to the NFC title game. I owe it to everybody to try to put our best foot forward next year, and that would be taking that $35 or $40 million and maybe you have to go get another corner because Diggs is gone, and a linebacker and maybe a safety. I don't think I want Donovan Wilson or Malik Hooker back.
So where I would disagree with you on that is when you look at when we were talking about Higgins and Chase and whatever they have in the tight end room or whatever they have in the running back room, the offensive line here is invested in, young, primed, ready to go. Dak has a 2, 3, 4, 5 probably year window max, right? Just a couple pods ago, you were saying Schoppenheimer, I'm gonna give him 3.5 years, right, or 3.75 years. So let's call it 4. The rest of this year and 3 more. So sign GP, reset the market even, raise CeeDee Lamb, and then go draft Caleb Downs. And then what I'm saying is, instead of using the 1s on the next quarterback, instead of using the 1s from the Micah Parsons deal on what you would have to do for the future without Dak, bet on Dak. And if not Dak, then the next version of Aaron Rodgers. Like, other guys are going to age out. Other guys are going to price themselves out with other teams. What Flacco proves on Thursday night is that when you have Higgins and Chase, when you have guys that you can, what Pickens has proved to us over the past few weeks is that when you have that dude that dictates terms, everything else can kind of fall into place. And with
Yes,
this
but what we've seen the last 3 weeks, we're running short on time here. I want to give you a chance to address this. I think what we've seen is making this offense balanced has done the same thing, maybe more. You know, the presence of Clayton Adams, Javonte Williams, and a young, athletic, strong offensive line, it's giving you the ability to say pick your poison, even without throwing another $40 million on top of the offense.
So I'll buy that in as much as if we divide that 40 by 2 or that 42 by 2, and you talk about two $20 million players and Caleb Downs and one of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, now we're in a place where you have almost no holes on this roster.
Okay, and I could compromise with you. I could say split that in two, give 20 to Jacoby Myers and spend 20 on a linebacker.
Right. So now this is where this gets really interesting is the next couple weeks are going to dictate everything because you either enter buy mode or fire sale mode. Like everything's on the table. And this could be a week to week team that's sitting there at 9-7-1 or 9-6-1 going into week 18 and needs a win and help in week 18 to get in. And so do the New York Giants. So if you're Jerry Jones, if you're Dallas Cowboy fan, knowing who Jerry Jones is and has been and will always be, you can bet that he's not going to do anything that puts this year in jeopardy, simply, flatly, and plainly. What we're talking about now is the checks he's going to write going forward and what that does, not just for 2026, but for what is the plan? 3YP. They say never say 3YP because it doesn't take any syllables off. Syllables. Business planning, right? 3-year plan around D4K. What is that? Because coming into this year, it certainly looked like it was going to be outscore everyone and take the ball away. Well, guess what? You're not getting the turnovers. So does that change? And if it doesn't, and this is number 1 offense and 32 defense, and you miss the playoffs or you get in and get motorboated in the wild card round, what the hell do you do to nuke this and reboot for 2026?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting motorboated in the wild card round compared to what happened last time, to be honest with you, but that's a story for another day. You're the man, dude. Great conversation. Tonight we'll be back very shortly for a Cowboys Commanders preview in our Sunday show. We're also going to look at the trade market, which is heating up and fascinating this weekend. Awesome. If you're watching this just a little bit later on in the day, as a matter of fact, that video might be up already, so check our library. Make sure you tune in for the wow factor, where we salute the best winning plays from Cowboys game day.
Where you do it. You've been killing it, dude. I
love it. I love doing the wow factor shorts. I do. Okay, like and sub on your way out. That helps us so much. And if you do, when I see, I'll buy you a beer. Until next time, for New Bear, I'm Dawson. How about wow?